Hi everyone, Mark from Audio Pursuit. This is now a review video. This is a rant over something that has been bothering me for a while, and I finally feel like I just need to voice it. But first, understand a bit of background. In 2006, which is a month from the time of this video away from being 20 years, I started reviewing. And at that time, every reviewer in the industry, whether it was print magazines such as Stereophile or The Absolute Sound, or online magazines such as Tone Audio, or websites such as Soundstage and Six Moons, etc., etc. The rule for the reviewer was that you spend about 2 months at least with each piece of gear before you wrote your review, because the goal was to get to know in detail the character of that piece of equipment or speakers. I followed that rule, and it took time. And you know what? Our hobby was better for it. Because even though people complained about the effusive use of adjectives, etc., the fact remained that that writer knew that piece of equipment really well. They looked at its insides. They saw the quality of construction. They could feel it in how the knobs and switches worked. They listened to the tonal quality of the speakers and the imaging and separation. They got to know it intimately. And in doing so, you could read it in their reviews. Then YouTube happened. And at first, it was just a video version of the written review. Guys like Sean Fowler, Andrew Robinson, John Darko, who also had a website they had done first, did really well presenting content. Then came guys like Aaron Hardison, who did the measurements and his viewpoints as well. All in all, it was a strong foundation still. But then came that buzzword, influencer, and the game changed. All sorts of reviewers started popping up, and what would happen is they would receive a piece of equipment, listen to it for 2 hours, and then write a script, film a video, edit it, and pump it out, proclaim it's wonderful, and they are now averaging 3 to 5 videos per week. It is impossible to truly know the character and quality from 1 or 2 short listening sessions. For example, right behind me here, I have the ELAC DB63s. I've had them in for just short of a week now. Have about 8 hours of listening time with them. I have a faint idea of their performance, but I need at least 30 plus more hours before I can feel confident that I can describe to you their qualities as well as their limitations with honest accuracy. Others still do the same. The people I've mentioned, plus a British audiophile, Ed Homewood of Old Guy HiFi, Rick Ruiz. There are several. But we also have those quick reviewers. They aren't in it to really tell you about the gear. They're in it to get their subscriber base built up so much that they can quit their jobs and be a full-time influencer. And that's what they are. They're an influencer. They are not a reviewer because they truly do not know the equipment. And that is a problem for our hobby. Our hobby's aging. The old guys are dying off. Look at me and my gray hair. That should tell you something. We need young guys, but we need these young people entering our hobby to understand what the true quality of the equipment is, not those drive-bys. They don't do anybody any good because for them, it's about the clicks. and that monetary reward of having this huge subscriber base with all these views. That is why that since I started making video reviews, I first put it in the comments, and now under the FCC notice, approximate number of hours that I sat there listening to the gear. And that's usually on the low side compared to what I really have sat for. And to give you an idea, that's approximately an hour and a half to 2 hours every night, and 3 to 4 hours each day on the weekend. Now, I teach a 4-day school week. Therefore, I've got 3 days of listening that I do. But I divide that up on whether I'm listening to one piece of gear or another, whether I'm focusing in on the DB63s or this SMSL raw DAC. So if I'm focused on this, I don't count my hours on this. And the good reviewers are honest about that. The other thing I want you to start noticing as a viewer is what type of equipment are they using with it? Are they using a variety of pieces of gear? And are they mentioning it? Personally, the very best person who does that is Ed Homewood of Old Guy HiFi. He'll tell you he's got 5 to 6 amps that he listens to. He'll tell you how many different speakers he pulled in with it. The associated gear. He does that. In my case, if I'm listening to speakers, I'm going to tell you that I listen to it through a tube amplifier, a Class A, B solid state, and a Class D. And that's a guarantee. And if I have extras, such as low or high power in one of them, I'm going to mention that as well. It's just like in the old days when they listed associated equipment in the written reviews. But the dry buyers, they'll mention something real quick. I hooked it up to this amp and that was it. Or I played the DAC through these speakers. Because they didn't take the time to really listen with several pieces over several days. The second thing is that on different days, we are in different moods. That's why we listen to the same equipment over and over with the same music, and then we add in new pieces that we listen to. That's why. We listen day in, day out to the same music, the same albums a number of times, plus our review list of songs. Then we find other artists that we think, based upon the character, hey, that album might sound really good. And we put that on and we listen to that several times because we don't know from day to day how our brain has been affected by the rest of our day and how we can listen to the music and how it affects us. I'm going to put out a call to all you drive buyers out there. If you're not willing to take more time and be honest, and I'm talking about weeks, at least do us the favor and tell us how many actual hours you specifically listened to that piece of gear before you made your video. Because our hobby deserves our best, not our weakest. Okay, everybody, enough of the rant. Go find some tunes you haven't listened to, pull it up or put it on your table, sit back and get lost in the music. Until next time, take care.